welcome back to another lesson. And this lesson is a continuation of the previous lesson. In the previous lesson, we start talking about how to access objects, properties in JavaScript, where you can use dot notation and as well use the brackets notation in order to access the properties of your objects. In this particular lesson, we are going to be looking at two other aspects of JavaScript object properties. And the first one is how you can add a new properties to your object in JavaScript. So there are times that you may have add an existing object and then just want to add properties to it. How do you do it in JavaScript? That is what we are going to be taking a look at in this lesson. And as well, we are also going to be looking at the property default values. So when you have default values for your objects in JavaScript, then we are going to be looking at how you can work with it. A value given to a property will be a default value for all objects created by the constructor. And so this particular aspect is going to lead us to what a constructor is when working with objects in JavaScript and how you can use it to create a blueprint of a subsequent object that you want to create out of that blueprint. So these are some of the things that we'll be considering in this lesson. So in the first aspect, which is adding a new property, let's quickly take a look at how you can add a new value to an existing object in JavaScript. So I'll pull up my editor so that you can quickly do that. And then don't forget this was what we had in the last lesson. So in this lesson, we are looking at adding new properties to objects, adding a new property to objects in JavaScript. So that is what we are having. And then I'll just come down here and then still stick with this example that we have. So let's say I already have an object like this, a person object that contains properties of first name, last name, age, color, and height, and I want to add another new property to this. So how do I do it in JavaScript? What I just need to do is to pick the object name that I already have and then add what I want to include as the new value for the new property that I want to add in JavaScript. So using the dot notation, then I can add something new, maybe like nationality of where probably maybe where this person is from. I can say so South America or something. Yeah, you can just use any value. In my own case, I'm just using this default value. And so if I have this, then I can then decide to say, okay, now that I have this, I want to get out this nationality for one of for the person's objects that I already have. So I can just do first name by using my document dot get element by ID and say person first name if I want plus is nationality. And I think I have okay, so let's try this nationality. Oh, you can see that right there. We don't need this part. Now, right here, you can see West South America. So, which means that by using the name of my object, I was able to add another property to this, which means that beyond first name, last name, age, color, and height, this person has another property, even outside of this object that has been declared just by using the name and the dot notation. So, if I have something else, what else can the person have? Maybe language, yeah. Maybe person does language, language. I think this is the correct one. Okay. Yes. Or says, okay, this is English. This person speaks Spanish. I can add it and say West is South America and space speaks Spanish. So you can see this. Let me just break this down so that you can see it clearly. Oh, sorry, don't mind my editor. So this is what I have. Where's the South American and speak Spanish? Now you can see that I've been able to add another new property to my existing property. So let's proceed and let's look at the other aspect, which is the property default value. A value given to a property will be a default value for all objects created by the constructor. And so let's quickly take a look at an example of this. So I'm going to make this same property, this same object, but this time I will change this P just for convention purpose because I want to use it as a constructor. So I will make it a capital letter like this. And instead of the way I assign value to all these key value pairs, so I'm going to pass in something like a default value after the person's object. So which is going to be something like this. So instead of const, yes, I'm going to do function because I want to make it a constructor function. Then what are the things that I want to pass in? So I want to have first, last, age, then I. So inside this place now, I will have to remove all this because this way it will not work. So I can then use the as a reference to this existing this thing that I have, as a reference to the existing function constructor that I have, to assign a default value to each of these that I have. As you can see, this dot h, and then lastly, I should have this dot high, yes, which is equal to 5. Then I can take this out because I'm not going to be needing it for whatever reason. And now that I have this, now what I have here is what they call a function constructor in JavaScript. It allows me to create a blueprint, like an instance of something that can be replicated later. So as this is now, I can now try to create an instance of it and use it as a blueprint to create an instance of a new object. So for example, so let's say I now create an object like this and say my father. I want to create it from this person object. So I just need to use the new keyword because I'm creating an instance and say new and pass in that object, new person. So let me just use this example and then create another one and do this. My mother, this way, 48. I'll close it. And then once I have these two new objects, you can see that I have two objects now, my father and my mother. But one thing you will notice is that instead of declaring them like this, I am just creating an instance from what you have here. And that is why we are seeing this new keyword and this constructor, function constructor, which is the blueprint for the object to create an instance by passing property directly into this new property, new objects that I'm creating from that instance. So with what I have now, I can start to display any some of the this value out, as you can see. So I can do something like this and say, okay, demo.getElement by id.inner.html and say, let me to take this out and say, okay, my father, my father is, then I had this, which is my new instance of the object that I created, my father dot first name, which is my father's first name, and then break it down and say, okay, plus, I want to add a space. My father, an instance of my new objects, my father dot last name plus his years. That is his age. My father dot age. And do this years. Now, if you take a look at this, you can see that my father is John Doe. And I want to add one more thing here. And this, the plus sign. And is 50 years old. Now, so just take a look at what we just have here. So, with this instance of being able to create a new object from a blueprint, we were able to get out the properties of this new object that I created just by passing in the name of my new object. You can see that I was able to get in all the properties passed in for this my father new object, and I can as well do the same thing for my mother. I think this will be a good practice for you to try what I just did with my father, with my mother, and see the output that you are going to get. So you should get something exactly like this, but with the value that matches what you have in your own properties for your my mother, or any name that you give to your new instance of the object that you just created. So don't forget that an object, like we've said, is just a way to group information together. And you know that this person that we just declare, it has different property. And so an object allows us to bundle them together. You can see that instead of declaring an individual variable with object, we were able to just bundle all of these things together and put them together into one particular object. So it's just like a way you use a mode to make multiple copies, of the same kind of thing, so that it gives you the same, exact replica at every instance of it. So what we have here, which is the function constructor, is just a blueprint. Okay, this is the pattern I want you to follow to create something. That is what a blueprint is. And you can see that this person here is the name of the blueprint. And what we have here as the first, last, age, and I, they are the input, the default values that comes with this function constructor for an object. And so this keyword that you have here so refers to the object that we are working with right now. And then you can see that what we have here as well was what we were able to follow to create an instance of this person's object. Just by using the new keyword, you don't need to pass in all of these things. By passing properties values directly, JavaScript know how to interpret it to match the parameters that has been set, or the default values that has been set into your function constructor for a new object. So this is where we'll be ending this video. And thank you, as I'll see you in the next lesson.